Hey everybody, welcome to Live Coding with Jesse. I'm Jesse, and today we're going to work on the React Native web app that we started a couple weeks ago. I don't remember when we started it. Let me know what the stream quality is like. Last time we had really good quality, but the time before that it was terrible, so hoping we have good quality again. Alright, and YouTube's telling me that the quality is okay, so I hope that's the case. Alright, cool. So looks like it's looking good. Hey everybody in the chat. And alright, so I'm going to go ahead and get started, and then I'll go back to the chat. If you've never joined in before, this is how it works. I will do Pomodoro sessions. So let me get a Pomodoro timer running. Let's go. Let's just find, there we go, tomato timer will work. So we're going to start this Pomodoro timer. It's 25 minutes. When 25 minutes is up, I'm going to stop coding and I'm going to answer some questions. Okay, we're going to try to get through 2 Pomodoro cycles. See how that goes, and then at the end of both Pomodoro cycles, if there are any questions left, I'll answer those. And if it starts to go really long, I will have to cut it off, and so I may not be able to answer all the questions depending on how many questions we have, because I'll have to go to my normal day job as a software engineer. Alright, so let's check out what we have so far. Here's the actual app. So this is as far as we got last time. We just have an input, a button, and a title on the page. But the cool thing was we did all this in React Native, and it's showing up in like DOM primitives basically. So these are divs, right? So that's the idea behind React Native Web. You can write it in React Native and render it as a web app. And you'd be able to render it not only as a web app, but since it's in React Native, you can render that same code. You can, I don't know if render is the right word when we're talking about mobile, but basically that same code could be used to make an iOS app and an Android app, and potentially other things as well. So let's go to the code. Alright, hopefully that's all big enough for you. The only thing that's blocked out by my face right now is just the terminal that actually is running the local server. So not really anything there that would be useful to see. Let's give ourselves a little bit more space for code. Alright, so you can see our package JSON at this point is very, very basic. We have React, React DOM, and React Native Web. React Native Web includes React Native. So that's why we don't actually have React Native here in our main dependencies. This package JSON will grow as we continue, and eventually if we'd like to turn this into a mobile app as well, so it'll get a lot more complex, but right now it's pretty simple. And we only really have one component, and that's app.js, and it's also very, very basic. Okay, so this will get broken out into separate components, but for now I'd like to just work on building out the UI a little bit. And this is going to be a game, like basically a math game. So I used to play this math game with my oldest son when he was just learning basic math, and I think we demoed it last week. But the whole idea is you have to get math problems correct to win the game, right? So we want to build out a basic UI. I'm not going to worry about graphics at this point. So we're probably just going to use like colored divs to represent the characters in the game for right now. And then later on, I'm not really a graphics person, so still have to figure out what I'm going to use for the characters, but we just need to get something on the screen visually so that we can test out the logic. Alright, so for right now, the input is there. That's what we need. Let's get some... I guess let me explain first what I'm thinking at first is just a basic thing. So let me make this bigger. Alright, so this will probably just be at the top as our title. We're gonna center this on the page, the input. Alright, so above the input there'll be a math problem, right? Just for now it'll just be a simple addition problem. You type your answer in here and you hit submit, right? That's basic. But then above that, or even on the sides, depending on the screen size, we'll have the hero character on one side and the enemies on the other side, right? And if you get the math problem right, an enemy will disappear. If you get it wrong, an enemy will appear, right? So the way to win the game is to get so many questions right consecutively so that all the enemies disappear, right? So that's the very basic idea. Level 1, simple, the simplest version of this game. All right, and then we could think about adding in some more complex things later, maybe like having high scores, being able to save your data, things like that. But for today, I'd like to just get that basic UI built out. Okay. And I see, so there's some action in the chat. So hey, everybody that's joining us. If you didn't catch the beginning and you're wondering why I'm not checking the chat, just hang in there. I have a timer going. When that timer goes off, I'm going to check the chat and answer all your questions. All right. So in React Native, we don't have the concept of divs or spans or p tags and things like that. We have these other primitives, which are the very basic is the view and the text. All right, so we're going to be using mostly views here. So this main view is going to stay our root view, right? But then we're also going to make, let's call this our, oops. Actually, I wrote div again. I'm so used to that. Okay, so this view is going to be our hero view. So for now, we're just going to give it like a class, basically a style of hero. Later on, we'll probably break these out into their own components, but it's a lot easier to work with them in one place when we're starting out. So we're going to say style hero, and that's all we're going to have in that view. Oops, view. And this one is going to be enemy. Okay. So for now, since I know we're going to start out with multiple enemies, I'm going to make 3. Okay. We're obviously not going to keep copy and pasting these. But for now, we're just going to kind of hard code a demo of the layout. So down here, where we have our styles in React Native, so React Native comes with this style sheet .create, and you can put styles in there. Basically, the styles are a JavaScript object. So instead of normal CSS, you have these camel case versions of CSS. Not all of CSS is available here, so it's a subset of what you could normally use on a website. So your app probably won't break, but you'll get a little error in the console letting you know if you're using something that's not supported by React Native. So for now, we're going to add, so this is an object syntax, so we're going to add a comma, and then we're going to add our hero. Okay, and let's just give them a width and a height. And in React Native, the units are just plain numbers, right? So we don't say pixels or EM or whatever. It's just flat out a number, right? So for now, let's keep things small. Let's just say 40 and height 40. Okay, so we're gonna keep them at this point just squares, right? Just really basic. And then let's give it a color. So we're going to say background color, and I don't really know a hex value for off the top of my head. I'm just going to put in, I wonder if, you know, I've never tried this, but I wonder if I could say just like blue. I know you can do this on the web, but I don't know if you can do it in React Native, so I'd like to know if you can do it, so I'm just going to try it. Alright, so I just copied and pasted, oops, there we go. I just copied and pasted hero, and we're going to call this enemy. And let's just say red for the enemy. And let's save that, see what we get. Hey, here we go. So it actually works, although I don't know about you, but to me this blue looks purple. Maybe just because it's up against the red, it's like messing with my eyes here. But anyway, so here's our hero, and here's our 3 enemies. Great. So I definitely learned something, that you can just put the names of colors in there. So that's useful, especially when we're trying to just mock things up really quickly. Alright, so the positioning's an issue right now. Like, we just put them on the page, but they're not at all where we want them to be. So let's try to get them positioned properly. So first thing we can do is move them down below the title. And let's add, alright, here's what I'm thinking. Probably should add a container for our hero and a container for our enemies. So let's do that now. So basically we're going to have a view and styles dot I'm going to say container for now, because I suspect that these containers are going to be very similar. So that we'll just have this container class. And oops, we don't want to self-close that. We want to actually close this view around the hero. And then we're going to have another container around all of these. And you know what, I don't have, oops, there we go. I don't have like my auto, there we go. The auto format wasn't working. I was worried for a second, I never had that set up. Okay, so now we have containers around here. We haven't given the containers any styles though yet. So let's do that. Right now, everything inside the root is getting this justify content, align item center. Let's take the root and make it heights. I think we can do percentage. Let's see if this will work. And we need to put that. Oops. Alright, so we're going to try height 100% on that root. I'm not sure if it'll work or not. I can't even really tell. No, it didn't work. So, oh, actually, you know what we should do? Let's go with flex 1. Is this it? let me see. There's some property on flex that will make it take up the entire container. No, that's not it. I may have to look that up now. So our actual, this says ID root, but that's not really our root. Let's just mess around in DevTools for a minute to try to get this right. So this should have our flex. Yeah, our flex grow of 1. Let's see what this one does. So that's not doing anything. And even our body is on this too. HTML is on this too. Let's just look this up. I had to look this up for a project that I'm working on now, but it was like 2 months ago, and I've already forgotten. So let's say full height view React Native. There we go. Is it possible to make view 100% in React Native? Yep, this looks good. Alright. So flex 1 is suggested here, which we tried. Let's do this. Take up the full screen. Position absolute. Lose 2 if it doesn't solve your problem. Okay, so we can go with this position absolute. We could also try to get the dimensions first and then set that as width and height. Okay. Okay, looks like they're doing the flex 1 thing. Yeah, I think let's just try this position absolute. That'll probably be the quickest to test. Alright, so I apologize if somebody already put this in the chat. Let me see. Each element inside a flex container, if you put flex 1 for each of them, will give all the same width height if it's flex direction column. Okay, so John Hansen was talking about the flex as well. Let's try this. And I don't want or need these. Alright, let's see what this gives us. Yay! Alright. This is the full height now. Right. And okay, great. Alright, so now we know we have a full height and width view. And then within this view, alright, we're at the containers. Let's style the containers. Get sidetracked there. We have container, and within the containers, let's see how we want to do this. I think the normal flex will work for these containers because flex direction is column by default, and so I believe that's what we want. So in React Native, flex direction by default is column. Okay, but here's what we want to do. So let's take this root and say, let's put up here flex. Let's try flex direction row. And actually. Let's comment this out for now. Really could do this in DevTools. Okay, so this is like what I mean by flex direction. So by default on the web, so if you're using regular React, this would be the layout if you're using Flexbox. By default on React Native, the flex direction is column, which would have been like the first view that we saw. Alright, so we're going to, within our views, probably switch back and forth to get the layout that we want. Okay, so we're gonna basically we're gonna nest views with different Flexbox properties to do our layout, right? So we're using Flexbox because that's what the layout stuff is for React, like built into React Native. All right, so we're gonna need a wrapper around this. Right, so we want to leave our main root as just flex direction column, but then we'll need a wrapper around this to set these to flex direction row, so these line up like this. We're gonna space them out, but for now, like this is a better lineup. Okay. Let me check my time. In about 5 minutes, I'm gonna go to the questions, the chat, and answer some questions. Okay, so let's add this, another view. The views are going to start to get crazy. It'll get simplified once we split these out into separate components though. Alright, so this view, we're going to set a style of, and we're going to say this is battlefield. Alright, so this is going to contain our battlefield, right, where our hero and our enemies do their math battling. And this will encompass both of our containers for our heroes and enemies. Now we can go down here for our battlefield. We can grab this flex direction row, we'll remove it here, and then just add it in down here. And let's see if that gives us what we want. I don't like that space. Oops, we forgot a comma. Alright, let's check it out now. Okay, great. So that does give us what we want. So the main layout remains flex column, right? Flex direction column. But then within this, let's see if we can get the outline here of this div. So within this container, we've switched to flex direction row. And then once we're outside of that container, we're back to the normal layout again. Okay, so not bad. Now, of course, we want to separate these warring parties here, and well, while we have this open, let's just add some styling right here so we can get immediate feedback. Okay, so the flex one here on this element is going to give us, it's going to spread us out vertically, but what we really want, I guess, here is, let's go see what this gives us. Let's see if we can get it a width. There we go. Okay, so we're gonna give this container, this is our battlefield container, we're gonna give it a width of 100%. Alright, we're gonna stretch out the battle here. Now, I don't really want this to take up the full width of the screen. For now, I'm going to add some padding on this one. It might not be a bad idea just to add padding on the root, but we can change that if we need to later. So I'm going to say, actually, we'll add the padding in here, because it's a little bit different for React Native, or at least we have a different option. So our battlefield width is going to be 100%. And then we're going to say padding. We're going to say padding horizontal, right? And then we can give it a padding. So I'm going to say 16. See how that looks. Okay. So here we have 16 here, and I think I forgot to add in, I had added in flex 1, yeah. So flex 1. When I added flex 1 here, so this is basically what it's doing. It's making this first one, this first container for our hero, the full width, with the exception of the tiny bit of space that we give to our enemies. Okay, so this will actually achieve what we want for right now, so I'll leave it, but we may want to switch that up at some point, because it's logically like it may end up being confusing for us, because we'll expect there to be kind of like an even battlefield in terms of our containers. Actually, let's see what happens if I do this. Oops, didn't want that. This actually will work out better. It doesn't look better right now, but it will in a minute. Let's add flex 1 to both of these containers, so we do get that middle, that split down the middle, you know. So basically each one would be 50%. Alright, let's verify that. Yep, this is what we have. Now, what we can do in these containers as well is say, like, how we want the elements inside to be displayed. So, flex, let's say flex direction, and then we have some options, right? So, oops, that's not what I want. Is it justify content? Alright, so it's not justify content, and then it'll be align items. There we go. So if you're trying to like center something vertically or horizontally, it's always either going to be justify content or align items. I can never keep straight which one is which, so I always just try both. So this will give us, you know, where we want them to be. For now, I think center is perfectly fine. So let's add our align items center. Oops, we gotta put that there. Alright, so we're gonna add our align item center, and then that should center both of them. There we go. So now we have our little battlefield, right? Now also, like, we do have an issue with spacing, right? And we ought to justify our content as well, so we get that vertical align. We're going to center that too. Okay. Alright, so now you see our heroes centered, our enemies are also centered. We want to give some space between our enemies, and there's two ways we could try to do this. We could set this container to be larger in terms of vertical height, and then, whoops, my timer went off. Alright, sorry about that. Alright, let's pause that for a second, and let me go to the the chat and answer some questions. All right. Okay, so Philip says, Philip dares me to code a program which makes a new random language. I know it's possible. I tried and it works. All right, that's pretty interesting. I don't know. I'm not sure how I would go about that, but that's a good idea for a future project. Thank you. Rob says good morning. Social Stock says good morning. All right, so a lot of people are saying good morning, so I'm just going to say good morning to everyone. Thanks for watching. Surendra asks if I can explain the Python language. My experience in Python is very limited, so I'm not the person to explain that. All right, if anybody else watching is really good with Python, maybe in the chat you could try to explain a bit. The only thing I really would say about Python is the syntax is based on a lot on indentation. So that's kind of all I remember from the brief time I spent learning Python. Let's see. Kaval asked about my IDE, my code editor, and it is Visual Studio Code. Let's see. John Hansen says, should the input type be text or number? It should be number. So I don't remember what I have in there now. I probably just copied and pasted it from somewhere the last time. Okay, look, there are some questions here that I think I actually just answered as I was going along, so I'm going to skip some of those. Let's see, someone, which I can't pronounce her name because it's in different characters, says, what about Flutter? Flutter is really interesting, and it would be a different way to create mobile apps. I don't know that you can create a web app with Flutter. So Flutter seems really interesting. I don't know enough about it to do a stream on it yet. But I've read a little about it, and it seems pretty cool. Okay. We had a question about whether this will be uploaded to the channel later. Yes, all the live streams get automatically uploaded to the channel later on. I'm gonna adjust my monitor here. It's easier for me to read. Okay, so we had a question, what are we trying to make in the webpage? So I explained a little bit earlier, but just very briefly, we're going to make a math game where the user will have to answer basic math problems in order to defeat the enemy. Sebastian says, I enjoy watching you on my 5-minute break. That's cool. I'm glad that you enjoy it. We have another question. Do you use PHP? So PHP, I have used it in the past. I don't currently use it for my job. So my PHP knowledge is really basic though. So I've done just some like file uploading. Yeah, I made like a basic file uploader for PHP, and then all the other PHP I've done is like WordPress plugins. So definitely not a PHP expert, by any means. And all right. Hey, I can't believe I made it through all the questions. I think I did. I made it through all the questions in the 5 minutes. So let's start another timer. I may have to finish up a little early, but for now this should be good. I'm gonna check the stream quality really quick. All right, it looks good. Quality looks good. Awesome. If anybody has any issues with the stream quality, let me know. I just see a question. How long will this stream go? The stream's probably going to end in about a half an hour. So another half hour. You could always catch the rest of it. in the recording if you want to. All right, so let's go back to our app, and let me kind of continue on with what I was explaining. I gotta change the song I'm listening to. It's kind of, I can't focus when the song is on. Okay, this is better. All right, so we have two options. We probably have more than two, but to my mind, there are two options I'm thinking of here. We can make this container bigger, right? So the goal here is to space these divs out because this is 3 divs, right? We can make this container like larger vertically. Then we could use Flexbox to space these out evenly within that container. Or we could just add a little bit of padding, or I'm sorry, margins to each one of these. The easier thing to do right now, I think, is just to add the margins. So I wonder, actually, you know what, I have a different idea. Maybe for the UI we would want to, like, let's say push this down a bit. So yeah, I think this would be better. Let's set a standard height for this container. What I'm thinking is, like, at some point when we start adding and taking away enemies, it's going to cause this input to jump up and down, right? Because it's positioned based on the height of this container above it. So it'll be nice. It'll look nicer if this doesn't jump up and down when the enemies do it. So let's take these containers and give them some sort of height. I wonder if we could do it these ones, or maybe this container. Yeah, let's do it on this container. Let's try it right now and see if we can go. I think we tried this already. Let's try it. I'm gonna try it again. There we go. I guess I didn't try it. So basically what I'm doing here is flex 1, and we're bumping this down. This looks weird now, but we'll get down to here and fix this up a little bit. So if we have flex 1 here, now when we go down to this, we can say justify content, space around. We could do space between. We could do space evenly, right? Space evenly looks the best to me, so we're gonna go space evenly. Okay, so we need to make 2 changes back here. So on our battlefield, we're gonna go flex 1, and then on our containers, we're gonna change justify content from center to space evenly. And I will give a shout out to John Hansen because he was mentioning this further up in the chat. And I skipped over it because I knew I was just going to do it here. But John, you were like 100% on the right track there with this. So now we have our battlefield with our enemies spaced evenly. Our heroes over here. So this is looking more like what I have in my mind and with what the original game looked like. The original game was really basic. It's on my GitHub page if you want to check it out. It's one of my very first repos. But the original page, the original game was just built with jQuery. So it was in my early days of coding. So now that we have this, let's add in. We need an actual math problem, so we're just going to hard code one in just to see how it'll look in the UI. So the math problem will be here, or yeah, for now we'll put it here. Actually, it might not be. If we put it in the middle of the battlefield, that might be cool too, but let's keep it here for now. And then this input definitely doesn't need to be this big if they're just going to put in a number that's probably going to be like 2 or 3 digits. So we can adjust that and then put some space in here at the bottom so we're not right up against the bottom of the window. Okay. Alright, so let's put in our let's see, view. Let's put in a container div. So let's say let's call it math container. I don't want to waste too much time thinking about names, so that'll do for now. Alright, so we're going to put wrap our button, our input, and then our math problem, which we're about to put in now. We're going to wrap that in that container, and then we're going to have this text. So like in React Native, I could never just type text outside of a container, so I couldn't just have text here, right? That would throw an error. It has to be inside this text. So let's put so we're gonna just put 2 + 2 for now. Okay, that'll be good enough, I guess. Height, border, gray, border width. Okay. So I'm not giving any style to this. Maybe I should. Let's say math text. All right. So we'll do some basic styles here for math container. We'll definitely want this to be I guess we'll just give it some padding for now. And really we just want vertical padding, right? So we're going to do padding vertical, and let's say 16 as well, just like we did with our other container. So we're going to give this some vertical padding, and then here we're going to give our math text, math text, let's just say font size, and let's make the font size, I don't know, 20. Right? We'll just see how that looks. And that should be okay for now, just to give us an idea. Okay, so we have our little padding here, and we have our math problem. Okay. We could, if our math problems are going to be like this, we definitely have space to put our input up here. That might not be a bad idea. I'd like to see that. Let me know what you think, right? So just take a look at it like this, and then we'll see what it's going to be like when we switch the input to be in line here, and then we'll see which one we like better. Okay, so the way we're going to do this is we're going to have a container just around here, and we'll set the flex direction to row, and then that should give us what we want here. And we'll keep the submit button below, and we'll style that kind of as our next step. Alright, so we need another view. Let's say this is a math container. Let's say math row. We'll call it math row, since it's going to be in a row. Have flex direction row. Alright, that's one a little piece of advice that I have is never spend more than a couple seconds trying to name something, because it's so easy to change the name later on, and you may actually completely get rid of that view or whatever you're working on. It might have different functionality later. It might, there's so many reasons why that name could change. It's a waste of time trying to figure out what to name it. So the first thing that pops in your head, just use that. Like I've spent too much time like wasting time on naming things and seeing it happen with other people. It's definitely not not worth it. So we have this math row, and we're gonna put a flex direction of row on our math row. And let's not forget the comma. And let's see what that does for us. Hopefully what I thought it would. Hey, there it is. Okay. So that worked. It doesn't look great right now, but yeah, you know what? I think I'll keep it like this for now. I want to make this smaller. Definitely add some padding here, some spacing, and then make sure that this text is lined up with. At the very least, it should be its baseline should be the bottom of this input, or it should be centered vertically. Let me check my timer and check. Okay, I think we're good. Okay. I am gonna check the chat now that I've showed you both ways, just to see what you all think as well. Okay, I don't see anything about that in particular, so I'm gonna go back to here. And I did see a few more questions in the chat, so I'll get to those in a few minutes. Let's trim this input down. Yeah, so it can definitely be trimmed down significantly. Yeah. So I believe we have some inline styles on this input. We can bring these down to... So let's switch this up and do styles dot input. And you can see I'm trying to keep my styles in the order that things are on the page. For now, that is helping me keep track of them. It may not be like the best way of organization. Maybe better ways, but it's working right now. Oops, I don't need that. Okay, there we are. It usually makes sense to put your styles down below. Otherwise, when you start to get a lot up here, it's way too cluttered to have your styles in line as well. I mean, I won't say never put them in line, but it's definitely cleaner to put your styles down below. All right, so on the input, let's give it a width. I wonder if we cut down the height too. You know what I do? I do want to leave it at 40, just so it's a decent tap target for like on a touchscreen. But we can change the width and want it to be pretty small. Let's go 80. Let's see if 80 works for this. And then for our text here, for our math row, we could put justify content center, and that should help us with our text there. Okay, so they made it a little bit better. It looks like that's interesting. It still didn't exactly help us with our alignment for our text, so we'll have to look into that. Actually, we could still go even smaller with this input. So let me try that. I'm going to go with 60. See how that looks. Alright, that's more reasonable. Yeah, 60 does seem a little more reasonable there. Okay. Alright, let's work out some of this padding right here in the inspector. So, on our... Let's see what's going on here. So this comes out as a div with just some... What if we could do a line height? Whoa. That was crazy. Oh, now I know why that was crazy. There we go. So if we change the line height, we can make this go up and down, right? So we could do it like that. I mean, I guess that works. This doesn't feel like the best solution, but it'll work for now. I could just try, let's just try increasing the font size for now. Actually, I'm not like entirely opposed to a larger font size. You know, this is like a kid's game, so like the larger font is not like in terms of the genre of like kids books and games and things. Usually they go with a larger font, especially if they're just learning to recognize their numbers and things. It's easier if it's larger. So let's go with this size 26 font. It looks like it fits well with this 40 pixel height for the input. So that'll be a good font size for us. So we'll go with that, and then let's add a little. So we're gonna say padding. Let's go with our padding left. Right. Sorry, right. Let's go with 8 pixels. There we go. So that's spaced out a little bit. All right, I think that works. So we're gonna bump this up to 26, and then add a padding right of 8 pixels, or 8 unitless numbers. Alright, that works. That's cool. We need some space in between the submit button and this row, so we're going to go on the container itself. I don't want a huge amount of space, so I'm going to try padding bottom of 8, and we'll see how that looks. Alright, great. Alright, not bad. I mean, this is not going to win any awards for design here, but like it's good enough that it's not going to drive me crazy to look at. Okay. Let's see. What else we can do? I mean, I'm gonna probably change the color of this button. I kind of want to leave the button really large too, especially when we consider the this running on a phone. If children are going to be playing this game, like their dexterity, you know, with their fingers, probably not great. So we want to make sure tap targets are like probably larger than we would even normally make them. Okay. Alright, this is not bad. Not bad. We got the basic UI. I'm okay with this for right now. Right. I think on the next stream, I'd like to move on to some of the logic of what's happening. Maybe actually getting these to appear and disappear, depending on what's put into here. So, yeah, I'm okay for now. So I'm gonna go to the chat right now, and I know I went a little over on the last Pomodoro session. I didn't notice when this actually the timer was up. So I'm gonna end this one a little early, so I have time for questions. But definitely want to commit this so that you all have access to the code that we've done today. So let's do a git status and see, okay, we've modified app.js. Great, just like we thought. That's the only file we worked in. Let's do a git commit. And I'm going to give it an AM flag, right, which means we're adding and we're committing, and we're going to add a commit message too. So we're going to say, I like to kind of prefix all of my commit messages so that we kind of know what this is about. So this is a new feature, right? The addition of this UI element. So feature, we add UI. For characters. All right, so that's kind of basic. We did more than that, but essentially, like what we really added, the biggest part we added was we have these characters now on the screen, and so now we're going to push this up to GitHub. If you're wondering like how we set all this up, we did do some setup in the last stream, and then on my channel. I go in depth more into like how to use Git and set it up on your computer. So the link to my YouTube channel is in the description. If you need a little bit of extra help, like getting up to speed on what we're doing here, maybe check out some of those tutorials, and that should help you. Okay, cool. So all that code should now be on GitHub. Let me show you the repo, and so you can go to it. Give it a refresh. Right, so here's our commit, and I'm gonna I forgot to put this in the description to the video, so I'm gonna copy and paste it right now in the chat. This is the link to the GitHub repo. I'll try to remember to put it in the description for next time. Okay, so I'm gonna do just a little bit more question and answer before we end this stream. Fun. Okay, so Samuel says, I'm the newbie of a front-end engineer. What language do you recommend except for JavaScript and PHP? So you want a language recommendation that's not JavaScript or PHP, and you're a front-end engineer? Honestly, like if you're doing anything with front-end, like JavaScript is the language. You need to know that. Now, if you want to pair that with something back-end and that's not PHP, it kind of depends on what you want to work on. You could go with Java. You could go with like .NET. It just kind of depends on like different factors, like what you already know, what you're interested in. If you have a certain job you really want, like what does that company use? Maybe you want to go with that. So it's hard to say, but if you want to focus on front end, JavaScript really is necessary. Costa says, hello, is it worth learning Django in 2019? Thank you. All right, so I would say if something is worth learning, it is definitely dependent on your situation, right? It's kind of going to be like the same thing I just said. Like, if you know the company you really want to work for, or the technology you really want to work with, or whatever is Django based, then it is worth it for you to learn it. Now, just if you are just getting into software engineering or web development, and you want to know what to learn, I would not really even think of Django as something to learn. To be honest, like I would say more focus on JavaScript and you could run full stack JavaScript, and like see where that takes you, where you end up getting a job, what your clients need, and then kind of decide like, okay, well, all my clients are using Django or my company's using Django, but I wouldn't give the advice to someone who's new to say like focus on Django right now. Does that make sense? Hopefully I answered your question. Oh, by the way, Django is correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Django is like Python based. Am I right? Let's see. John Hansen says the answer is 4. So did I defeat the enemy? Yes, you. That is the correct answer. Let's see. Imtiaz says how to create custom ROMs. I have no idea how to create custom ROMs, so I'm sorry, I don't really know about it. Habib says, is this CSS coming from React also? Yeah, so like this, the style sheet object that we have here, this is built into React Native. So this actually does some cool optimizations with your styles. So if you're using React Native, I definitely recommend doing your styles like this. It's not the only way, but because it's built in with, I don't know how it does it all in the background, but basically it will apply these styles in a way that's going to be most helpful to your performance. All right, so Peter asks, why are you using React Native for building a web UI? Is that a real scenario? Actually, yeah, that's a really good question, because this concept of using React Native for the web instead of using just regular React is a weird concept, right? But the idea is, if you use React Native to build a web app, you can use that same code base for your Android and iOS app. And then if you have a desktop app as well, the same code base for that could be used, right? Because you could use something like Electron to run your React Native web app on the desktop. So the idea is like, you have your team or just you, and you don't have the resources to hire people who are experts in iOS and separate experts in Android and separate experts in web. So you want to be able to share the code and be able to do more with your developers that you already have. So it is a real scenario. So I'm actually using React Native Web currently at my job, my normal job, and the idea behind it is we want to be cross-platform with one code base. Michael Creel says views and views and views. Yeah, actually it does. You definitely end up getting a lot of views. Once we break these out into components, though, it won't be all these views together. These will have their own names as components, so it will look better. Like in terms of what gets added to the DOM, it's going to be divs and divs and divs, but at least for the development of it, it'll be a lot cleaner. See. All right, we had another question about what am I building. Basically, I'm building a game, a math game for children to help them learn how to learn about math. Um, let's see. I lost my place. Okay, so Michael then adds, saying that the point to build it like is to build it like this initially, but also be cross-platform. So yeah, that's a good point, Michael. I forgot about that too. Like, it is the developer experience for developing a web app is a lot better than trying to develop on a mobile device or even with an emulator. So building it like this actually is really fast, at least like for the basics, and then switch over to testing it on mobile. Um, it's it's just a faster, like the feedback loop is faster. It's easier to figure out what the errors are. So I definitely prefer this. Peter says, my opinion is React plus Material UI would be more practical. Um, yeah, so I'm assuming you wrote that before my explanation, so I think my explanation kind of deals with that. Although I definitely love Material UI, and I really wish that I could use Material UI with React Native. So I'm going to throw that out there. Material UI is awesome. Let's see. Uros asked when the next stream is. I'm planning on Friday, so hopefully everything will go well on Friday morning and I can get another stream in. So probably like 8 a.m. Eastern time again. Jarvis says, love your work, keep going. Oh, awesome. Thank you so much. Tarcisia says, what are these clothes behind you? Oh, this. All right, let me show you what's behind me. So I am currently in the corner of my basement, like right next to my washer and dryer for clothes, right? So in order to make this feel more like an office, I hung up tablecloths from the ceiling to give me like walls, right? So this has the added benefit too, is that when my kids and stuff like pass through here, like they don't get in the view, because I do have I've had in the past kids potty training, and I currently have one kid potty training, so they will at times run through here naked on their way to the bathroom. So I can't have that on YouTube. So this was the cheapest way for me to have some walls up here. So we're right now. I'm in the process of trying to buy another house, where I can then have a proper office. But for now, this is like my temporary solution. I know it looks really weird. The people on my team make fun of me and says it looks like I'm in some type of dungeon or like Fallout shelter or something. Yeah, hello from Russia and Germany. Hey, how's it going? Cool. Hey, I might speak at a conference in Russia. I'm waiting to hear back to see if I got selected, so I'm excited about that. Uh, and I was in Germany a couple months ago. I loved it. All right. Ronald says, can you tell me what I can learn to be a front-end developer and what kind of course or path you recommend? I definitely recommend Free Code Camp. So check out freeCodeCamp.org and start through their lessons. And then they'll also have a lot of links for extra information that you can go out to. But if you go through the Free Code Camp stuff, you're definitely going to be on the right track. Let's see. MD Extemal Hossein says subscribe. Thank you so much. Julio says, did you consider Flutter? I thought about Flutter, but I'm not sure. As far as I know, Flutter, you can't build a web app with Flutter. It's just for mobile apps. So correct me if I'm wrong. I probably still would have gone with React Native because it's been around longer. It has a larger community. There are more like large companies with like apps in production. They're actually live. So I feel better about that. But I think Flutter is going to be a good option as it matures, though. Habib says, can't we use any front-end framework with React? I think that was in response to like using Material UI. I can't use Material UI with React Native. So it was built for React based on DOM primitives. So you can't use it with React Native that has its own primitives. Gian says, why do you have a computer next to your washer? Because I have a small house, and it was the only place that I could go that wasn't already being used by my wife and kids. Dr. Hezekiah asks what software I use for the video and screen capture. OBS. So the software is called OBS. It's free. It's cross-platform, so check that out. Michael Creel says, remember the spaghetti of the last project? Yes. So glad that I don't have to do anything more with that project. Like, I was proud of it, what we did with that last one, but it is kind of a relief to just be able to move on. Tarcisio says, hello from Brazil. Says it's a really good channel. Oh, thank you. Yogesh says hello from India. Also, if I mispronounce any of your names, please let me know, because I'd love to be able to pronounce them right. So just let me know how to pronounce them correctly. Vishal says, what should I learn, React or React Native? If you want to do mobile apps, React Native is the way to go. If you're just interested in web apps, then go with React. Although it's very easy to switch between them. Like, once you learn one, it's easy to learn the other one, because a lot of the concepts are the same. Oh, okay, so evidently you can create a web Flutter project now, but it might be in beta. So, alright, thank you for that. Cool, I'll have to check that out. So, like I said, I think Flutter potentially could be really awesome, but it's too new for me to be like comfortable. And it does make me nervous that, as far as I know, Google is not really using it for anything big yet. So I kind of worry like that Google might not work on it anymore. So they do have the reputation of like starting projects and then abandoning them somewhat quickly. So whereas like Facebook and React, like very significant portions of Facebook are built with React and React Native. So they couldn't just drop it, right? It would have to be a process to rewrite parts of Facebook, right? So there's a little bit more security built in just because of how dependent Facebook is on React at this point. Google is not at all dependent on Flutter at this point for very much of anything. So maybe that'll change. Okay. We have Aodele, not sure to pronounce that, but says, I'm connecting all the way from Nigeria. Many thanks for your videos. I really appreciate it. Can someone who is new catch up with this tutorial you're working on now? Oh, yeah, for sure. We're only on the 3rd video, so you could definitely catch up. Not a problem. If you're watching the recordings, I definitely recommend watching them on 2x speed. I talk slow enough that I think that's doable, and I sound way smarter on 2x speed because I solve all the problems twice as fast. So, yeah, but that'll help you get through them a lot quicker since they are kind of like an hour in length, which actually I'm going to have to wrap this one up quickly. So let me get to these last few questions. Somendra says, hello from India. Every time I watch your video and follow on Instagram, please say my name. There we go. Somendra. Somendra Pratrap Singh. Okay. Hello from Rian says, hello from Cambodia. Can I start to learn React Native if I'm the beginner? Definitely learn JavaScript. Like, make sure you know JavaScript, know like your basics of CSS. So learn that first. If you already know some of that, then yeah, go into React Native. But if you're like totally new, check out freeCodeCamp.org and go through their like HTML, CSS, and like basic JavaScript stuff. Then they'll kind of ease you into React, and then you should be ready for React Native. Let's see. It says, Mahesh says, what is the minimum requirement of React Native to get a job? I haven't started yet. It just entirely depends on the company, really. Maybe for like a junior position, you might only need like a year of React Native experience or whatever. But I mean, if you pick it up really fast and can build something awesome with it, you could probably convince a company to hire you based on your portfolio. So it's really hard to say. Vishal says, what will be your next video on React to React Native? My next stream will be React Native. My next video, I'm not sure. I might do something with GraphQL in my next video, actually. So we'll see. Omar says, hello, is React Native like native script? Yeah, it would be in the same like category as native script for sure. All right, I gotta go and get to my real job. It was so awesome being able to start the day off with a live stream with you all. Thank you so much for watching, for all your questions and your advice, your help. Hopefully I'll be back again on Friday morning. So Friday morning Eastern time. Definitely like check out. I announce on Instagram, on Twitter, before I do the stream, so you can follow me on there. Links to those accounts are in the description. Check out my YouTube channel if you're interested. If you liked what I did here, I have more like this on my YouTube channel. And yeah, have a great what day is it? Wednesday? Yeah, have a great Wednesday.